Keeping it locally here with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and you've had some time out at Salt River Fields. We just saw Perdomo sign an extension. Obviously, Corbin Burns in the offseason, the big move. What do you make of the Arizona Diamondbacks and what they're trying to build chasing the Dodgers this year?
I love what they're doing. They're a smaller market team. It could be very easy for them to say, that's the Dodgers over there. We can't compete with that. We can't spend at their levels. But they've made it clear for the last few years that they're not going to back down from them, right? Like, this is a team that wasn't anywhere near as good as the team that's on the field right now that got to the World Series 2 years ago. And they've doubled down on that. And they don't have the revenue stream. They don't even have a local media deal right now. And they go out and get a Corbin Burns. They extend Perdomo. They gave Corbin Carroll that big contract a few years ago. They're going for it. And look, I expect the Dodgers to win the National League West. I mean, they've gone through so many injuries through the years and still won that division. But the Diamondbacks are a perfect example of getting into the playoffs. Get into the playoffs, be clicking at the right time, be healthy, and you can make a nice long run. And I think that's how they look at it, and I give them all the credit in the world. They're a fun team. Their offense is dynamic when Corbin Carroll is going right. Their rotation is going to be really deep. We'll see about the bullpen, but I love what they put together.
I think Ken Kendrick said it the other day that he believes this team, you can't predict how 162 will go, but that if they're in the playoffs, they are built for another World Series run. Do you feel similarly about if this team is in the playoffs, they can compete with anybody?
I do, because if the starting pitching is there, they can compete with anybody. And the way that their offense functions when it's right, when Corbin Carroll is right at the top, they're a team that makes good contact but also has power in the middle. They're a team that runs the bases aggressively. Those are the kinds of things that work in the playoffs, so I agree.
And with the pitching, too, you mentioned the surplus, having Burns and Gallen and Kelly and Erod and Fott and Nelson and Montgomery. How do you see this sort of playing out? Because it's not necessarily a bad thing to have 7 starters, because even going into a 7, most of them could still end up with 15-plus starts with injuries and different things happening. But how do you see this playing out with sort of those 7 starters?
I think the Diamondbacks are in wait-and-see mode now. It's not unlike maybe how the Mariners might be with Luis Castillo, how the Padres might be with Dylan Cease, how the Yankees are with Marcus Stroman, right? I'll say the same thing about the Diamondbacks and maybe a Jordan Montgomery. His name has been out there in trade rumors all offseason. It doesn't seem like there was a deal there for them that made sense. As we've seen with pitching, particularly starting pitching over the last few years, it's a high attrition rate, right? Like teams, the Dodgers are a great example. They went into last year thinking that they had great starting pitching depth, and they ended up having 2.5 starting pitchers in October. You think you have depth, and you really don't have depth. So I think it's wise for teams like that. A team like the Diamondbacks that seems to have a surplus now might not have a surplus in 3 weeks, in a month. So it makes sense for them to hold on to him. I think if everybody's healthy, though, ideally, they'd find a taker for Jordan Montgomery. And if Jordan Montgomery pitches the way he's capable of, I think they'll have plenty of suitors eventually.
Last thing, I'll put you on the spot here before we get you out. You've been around to different ballparks, Camelback, SRF, Peoria. Do you have a favorite one out here in Cactus League?
Ooh, that's a great question. I really like, and I've thought a lot about like my favorite major league ballparks. I've never thought about my favorite spring training complex. I'll say this, not just because I'm pandering to a local audience, but I really like Salt River Fields. I think it's a great facility. It's enormous and it's hard to navigate sometimes. But if you're a fan, like to come and watch spring training, like to have like major league type amenities, but like just a really cool environment with like the lawn seating and like all the concessions and stuff like that, I think Salt River Fields is really cool.
Alden Gonzalez, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate the time today.